YouTube seems to be up. I'm gonna press go live on YouTube. And we should now be live. Alright, everyone. I'm Henry. I'll be your operator for today. Today we have a special community call regarding Starknet version 0.11. This is your AMA. This is your time to ask any questions you may have about 0.11 before the first Starknet governance vote. Woohoo! Woohoo! So, okay, all right, everyone, welcome. So we're doing a special community call today because yesterday on testnet we had actually 0.11 be deployed. So first, I want us to give a big round of applause for that. We've been waiting for so long. It is here. And now is the time for anyone here, dev, passerby, fisherman, to ask questions about whatever they want on Cairo 0.11 before it gets voted on. Today with me, I have Sylve and Devon, who are the governance facilitator. I have Manor from StarkWare, who is also working on the governance facilitation, and I have Ariel, aka Feed the Fed, who is the person who is going to answer most of your question. Right, so I'll be monitoring the questions in YouTube as well as on Twitter. And we have the first comment on YouTube with Guideboot saying "sup." So I'm not sure we can answer much here, but keep these questions coming. We are very grateful for your participation. Let me see if we have something on Twitter, and let's share the link for the community call in a broader forum. As someone shared it on Core Stars.
I'll do it.
Nice.
I posted in the community forum.
Wonderful. All right. So while we're waiting for question and for people to connect, Ariel, any specific thing you want to talk about on version 0.11? Last time we had this community call or a similar community call, we went through the changelog and documentation about 0.11, and we covered everything that went that was implemented that was going to be implemented in 0.11. Since then, 0.11 happened, and the process was a bit different than what we would expect. I think 0.11 was rolled out to integration, and then there has been 5 or 6 versions of this before it reached testnet. Do you want to, I don't know, talk a little bit about the process, how it happened, what you're looking like, what happened so that we had 6 versions, and what we're looking forward to for testnet? Will there be 6 versions for testnet or not really?
Yeah, so I'll try to answer that. TLDR is no. We now have this one version.
Cool.
So from now on, every Starknet version will be associated with a specific compiler version. Under the hood, and I recommend everyone to check out the docs about why do we need Cairo 1 and Sierra in the first place, and what else is it except a much nicer language than Cairo 0. But the short version is that every compiler can basically use a specific set of functions that we call lead funcs, and only some of those are allowed. Each such function has to be audited because the important property that we want from Sierra, that every contract execution will be provable, depends very much on how exactly the compiler compiles your libfunc. So between version 1 and version 6 of the compiler, we improved those, found issue in those and fixed them to make sure that the ones that are live on testnet, at least to the best of our knowledge, have this property of always being provable. And that aside, there were many Starknet features that were added in the meantime. I think Alpha 1 up to something, up to 4, had basically 0 of the system calls, which meant pretty much standalone smart contracts, no contract calls. And now we have basically every system call that was available on Cairo 0, also available with Cairo 1 contracts. So it's a combination of features and security guarantees.
Nice. So we've had to wait a little bit longer, but we got more as a result. That's
Yes.
pretty cool. So you mentioned that there were some issues that were found while on integration. What should I do if I find an issue in a libfunc while it's on testnet? Who should I reach out? What's the canal to raise an issue and say, something's wrong, guys?
First of all, I think such an issue can only be discovered if you look through the Cairo assembly generated by the compiler. So it's not like you're writing Cairo 1 and you're doing stuff and you'll notice, I don't know, if you're not looking for it, you probably won't find it. That's
But you
the
don't know
TLDR.
these
But if you do
people.
find it,
You don't know these people, Ariel. They will
then
look for everything and they will find
yell
stuff,
on
which is
every
great.
channel, especially the
Is this
community
actually the process pinging everyone? Like, what should people do? Should they ping you? Should they ping me? Is there an email? Is there a process, or is it just trying to reach us
There's
as
the
fast
Cairo
as they
1
can?
channel on Discord. I think most of the language discussion today happened there, which I think is nice. It mimics the early days of Cairo 0. And I think that would be a good place to start.
Wonderful. So GetBoot is asking, do you think the 1 week trial is enough to minimize mistakes before deploying on mainnet? And I think here, I think here that there's probably something we didn't talk about enough. So 0.11 is on testnet, and 0.11 is going to move to mainnet, provided the governance votes for it in a week. But Cairo 1 won't be usable on mainnet straight off the bat. Is that correct, Ariel? Can you explain the rationale behind that and what will be the process to get, and the timeline to get Cairo 1 deployed on mainnet, please?
Yes, exactly. So once O11 reaches mainnet, if the vote is successful, then declare v2 transactions, which are the way to add Cairo 1 contracts, won't be accepted by the sequencer initially. The version will be pretty much identical. Everything would be identical, except this feature flag will be off. And after, let's say, a few weeks to up to a small number of months on testnet, if we feel comfortable, we'll start accepting Cairo 1 contracts on mainnet. The issue that we want to try out on testnet first and not have to handle on mainnet is the case where some contracts reach mainnet and they don't have the property that we desired from Sierra because of some bug. And we hope that this period of experimenting on testnet will help to expose those in addition to all the audits, both internal and external.
Fantastic. All right, so earlier today, I published something for people to deploy their first Cairo 1 contract, and the CAC, Tariq, wrote, I wanted to try Sierra's ability to include a failed TX. So I wrote a dump function that fails. However, I can't send a TX because it fails and it isn't sent to the sequencer. Is there a way to test the feature? And I think the answer is it doesn't exist.
Yes, that would be the short answer. So while we move to Cairo 1 and Sierra, we're still not using all the capabilities of Sierra. For example, we're not proving reverted transactions just yet. They're still treated the same way by the sequencer, even though internally this is captured as an error. In one of the next versions, we will add the notion of reverted transactions to Starknet, which we didn't have so far and we still don't have. But now we have all the infrastructure required to have those. And with this new notion, a simple transaction that fails, I don't know, division by 0 or whatever reason caused your transaction to fail, it will be included in a block, and the sequencer will charge fees up to the point of failure.
Okay, very nice. It makes it much clearer. So Sierra will give us failed transactions, but they haven't been implemented yet. Very nice. Let me check if there are other questions. So Gaba is saying GM. GM Gaba, happy to have you here.
But it's almost evening. Makes no sense.
If you've deved all night long trying to deploy your first Cairo 1 contract, now is a good morning. And it's always morning somewhere, so. Okay, let's see on CoreStar if there are questions. And nope, no questions that I see.
There's a question on Twitter, which is, what's the criteria for voting? It's a bit of a broad question, but I can try and take that one.
Please.
The V0 Alpha v0.11 is the first version on which the Starknet community is going to vote on the upgrade. So we, as Henri and Ariel have explained, we just released the StarkWare just released the update on Starknet testnet Girly. And currently we have a 6-day period to vote if we want this upgrade to be enacted on Starknet mainnet. So the current token holders have the ability to vote on this. So we have a dedicated snapshot space and a proposal that is currently running. I think we have 54 voters so far. Most of them have, I think all of them have voted in favor of the upgrade.
I'm actually checking, and some people voted against. We have 53 million Stark voting against, and 21 million, 33 million, 53 million, sorry, voting against, 21 million Stark tokens abstaining, and then 1.5 billion voting for.
I think you're looking at the test one we had done.
Oh my, you're right. Okay, I embarrassed myself again.
No problem.
So we have 300 million Stark voting for then. So
we have a 300 million token total that have voted. The current distribution of voting power is the following. A third of it are investors, a third of them are core contributors and development partners, including companies that have developed key infrastructures, the partners that have built a part of the Starknet ecosystem. And a third is 23% is the Builder Council, which is a council of 17 builders chosen by the Starknet Foundation to vote as a voting block. So I'm the governance facilitator in charge of the Builder Council. We're going to reconvene in the coming days to discuss this upgrade and whether the Builder Council is going to vote for or against this upgrade. So that represents 23% of the voting power. And the remaining 10% are delegates that were chosen and appointed by the Starknet Foundation. So we have about, I think, 95 delegates in total that have been delegated 500 million worth of voting power. So far, we've seen a pretty big turnout of these delegates. And we really encourage, if you're a delegate or if you have any opinion regarding the upgrade, we really encourage you to voice your opinion on the community forum. Devin has written a post regarding v0.11. Do not hesitate to ask any questions there if there's any problem.
I think something interesting also is that, right now delegates are people, right? Independent people. But eventually nothing prevents a delegate from saying, hey, I'm going to create a DAO that becomes a delegate that organizes the way we vote in a different way, right? You can decide to have your own forum, to have your own calls, to have your own folklore. Because I think the Builders Council, when you guys meet, you have this special attire, right? You have to wear a builder's hat and something like that. Is that correct?
So it's actually a building competition. So we all get little Lego blocks, and we have to build the highest tower in the fastest, in the shortest amount of time, and then you get to vote. So the Builder Council, for instance, the voting power has been delegated to a multi-sig and so we vote, and then we decide to enact the decision on the multi-sig directly. But
Interesting. So it's not like it's a vote. You vote on the call, and then some signers enact the vote as one voice.
Yes, because if you do it through a multi-sig, you can't necessarily have all the layers and the complexities of an actual vote, because it's usually, okay, do you want to approve this transaction or not? What we want here is actually to have a discussion. So abstaining, or you can't have, for instance, one person saying no, because it will invalidate the entire transaction. So this is why it's not actually a vote. It's like you're enacting the vote on chain.
So many layers of governance. All right. So we have Devin Matthews saying GN. So I guess is somewhere where it's night. Oh, wait, you're in Japan, Devin. So yeah, it is. It makes sense. Ramsey saying sup. Then we have Atakan saying, hey, Atakan from GoPlus Security, greetings from Istanbul. Will there be any difference for current security tools such as fuzzers, static analyzers, or formal verification tools?
I think yes, but depends on exactly what component are you looking at. If you're looking at, let's say, fuzzers, then I think most of the work is on the Cairo 1 side. So you'll have changes for obvious reasons, because it's a new language, you need new tooling. And formal verification, that depends. Just like formal verification can on Ethereum can happen either on Solidity or on EVM. Here you can choose to look at Cairo 1, Sierra, or Cairo Assembly. Cairo Assembly is unchanged, so everything that was developed for Cairo Assembly is still useful. I think that companies whose expertise is formal verification usually go to the lower level setting, so they will probably still continue to look at Cairo Assembly. But yeah, I'm not an expert here, so I can't really say. But this layer remains unchanged. So the only question is, do you have something to gain by looking at the new intermediate layer?
Thank you, Ariel. So Adek Beta Demola is saying, hello, I am following the GitHub repo to deploy my Cairo 1 contract, but I am experiencing a blocker at the point of setting a new account for the tutorial. I'm getting the error account not found exception, account for network alpha girly not found. How do I resolve this? Well, you need to deploy an account. Basically, it's the CLI telling you haven't deployed an account yet. So there's a small part in the tutorial telling you how to do this. So go for that. All right, I actually have another question for you, Ariel. So I saw a question pass somewhere. Somebody saying, "Oh, here's a crazy idea: a libfunc called execute as int that gets a Sierra function and runs it as an int." What's the point of doing that? Is like what would that achieve?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Yes, the question here's a crazy idea. It would be a libfunc called execute as hint that gets a Sierra function and runs it as a hint.
We should give proper credit, but
I know. This is a crazy idea from Shahar. It's something that is internal, so it's definitely. I'm not sure how much of. I don't think it's fully confidential, but I didn't get it. Can you? And it sounds interesting. So can you explain what this achieves?
Shahar is 10 steps ahead of everyone, so I must admit that I don't really understand the idea completely. I think this can be a quick solution of adding hints to Cairo. So if we're looking at Cairo 0 had hints, and these had to be whitelisted to be operational on Starknet. but the mechanism was exactly the same. If your hint was whitelisted, you could have used it on your smart contract. Cairo 1 does not have this concept, at least at the moment. There are no hints. There are only libfuncs. You're writing Cairo 1, this compiles to Sierra, and Sierra has libfuncs. If you want new fancy logic, let's say verifying a signature on some different new curve, then you may want a libfunc that does this. Let's say in Cairo 0.
Why can't you do this in Cairo 1?
Yeah, so you can do it in Cairo 1 and it will work, but let's say it takes too many steps in Cairo 1 and you're thinking to yourself, oh, but I'm thinking of these hints I can use, and then this would have been a lot faster to verify the signature. So this you can do in Cairo 1, and if you want some logic that is relying on hints, you have to introduce it to the system as a libfunc, which has to have all the important properties that I've briefly mentioned before. For example, there can be a flow where the generated Cairo assembly fails. And yeah, so that's the analog of having new fancy Cairo 0 logic, which uses hints. Here you would have to introduce a new libfunc that makes use of those hints in a way that is safe. And right now, so this bypasses the need to have hint syntax in the language, and you can still use the power of hints for a certain logical unit in Starknet. Unlike Cairo 0, where either you had hints or you whitelisted or you didn't.
So maybe... does this mean that essentially it allows you in your Cairo 1 contract to have a small window where you can run Sierra code directly? Which gives you different properties?
The idea that you mentioned, if I understand it correctly, it's pretty much it. I think the motivation is, let's not have, I don't know, a long period of development around adding hints to Cairo, but let's just add this specific libfunc that takes Sierra code and executes it. And we can use this as the hint syntax for Cairo 1.
But it's
which
not
may
exactly
work.
hints, it's Sierra hints. Okay.
Yeah, Sierra hints. It won't be, I think it means you're replacing Pythonic hints with Sierra. And there are some trade-offs here which I don't completely understand, but yeah, the whole motivation is some quicker way to add hints to Cairo 1. But just to be clear, this is not a priority for Starknet because you don't really need those. What you need is fancier libfuncs, and that you will have. And in the future,
libfuncs, StarkWare is writing them.
Yes, and something that we have to figure out is how exactly we're externalizing this process, because you can't have a libfunc which isn't safe, but you don't want only a small number of people writing libfuncs. You should think of them maybe as analogies to precompiles. It's also not a trivial process to add a new precompile to Ethereum. It's not something that you can do without proper thinking, but there is a process for that. And I think we need to converge on something for Starknet as well.
Cool, thank you. All right, so there is another question. Maciek is asking, there are missing features in Cairo 1. For example, the ability to store structs in storage, unless you want to write a lot of boilerplates, or primitive types like I256 or bytes32, etc., or for loops. What's the development timeline around those missing features?
So I can't really commit to anything, but the nice property for language features is that they do not rely on a Starknet upgrade. Anything that doesn't require new capabilities from Sierra and just uses existing primitives, but just gives nicer, higher level syntax, this can be done seamlessly. So I'm not sure off the top of my head what are the current language features being worked on. Loops are definitely in this list, in the planned list. I'm not sure about all the types that you mentioned, but I guess so. That sounds reasonable. Structs in storage, I am not sure if this is work on progress or not, but I'm sure that if you'll tag Papini on Discord, he will let you know. And if you'll tag him enough times, maybe he'll just do it overnight and implement it. Don't say I said it.
It's recorded, Ariel. There's a red corner on the top right of the screen.
Do quote him anyway.
All right,
I
Maciek,
have
I
a
hope this answers
question.
your question. But interesting insight here is that there are two compilation process, one from Cairo 1 to Sierra and another one from Sierra to Chasm. The compilation from Sierra to Chasm is tied to Starknet. So when we need to upgrade Sierra, to move Sierra from one version to another, we need to move Starknet from one version to another. However, for the higher level compiler from Cairo 1 to Sierra, this one we can upgrade it various times without having to upgrade Starknet, which is pretty cool. Is that correct, Ariel?
Yep.
Now, where does governance fit in? Does governance fit in just for the Starknet upgrade, for the Sierra to Chasm upgrades, for the Cairo 1 to Sierra upgrade? I want all the power. I want to vote on everything. Or not? I don't know.
Before answering that one, I have a follow-up question coming from Nicolas from Ledger. He's asking if there are any contract accounts on 0.11.
If there are any Cairo 1 account contracts, you mean?
I would assume so. I'm just going to ping pong.
We have on the compiler repo an example account contract. I'm not sure if someone declared it yet, but it should work, so go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, but we could probably ask the guys at Ledger if they're working on it. But yeah. And right now, I think the CLI still uses Cairo 0 contracts.
Yes, the account in the CLI is Cairo 0.
Okie dokie. You just said, yeah, I was looking for a Cairo 1.0 contract.
Yeah, so in the compiler repos, somewhere there's a set of examples, and one of them is a basic account. If you can find it, just write in the Discord, and I or someone else will link it.
Gotcha. So your question, Henri, was what are we voting on? Is it?
Yeah, I don't know if I should leave it to you or Manor or to myself.
Okay, I'll hand it over to Manor.
Okay, hi. So on the first phases of Starknet governance, we're definitely going to vote only about the Starknet upgrades and not on the Cairo 1 upgrades. In the future, we want to have more and more governance mechanism from other stuff on the other components of the network. But in the first phase for sure, and the next phases as well, we'll only vote on the Starknet upgrades. Okay, Henri, answer your question?
Yeah, pretty much. All right, let's see if there are other questions. There's no other question on YouTube. Let's see. Actually, something just popped up. Some master is saying some types should be reflected in the ABI. Yep, there's probably something's missing in the compiler. Don't hesitate in flag bugs. If people have feature requests or bugs they want to signal on Cairo 1, where should they go? On the Cairo repo, on the Cairo Lang repo?
Not the Cairo Lang repo, that's Cairo 0 or Starknet stuff, but on the Cairo repo with the Cairo 1 compiler. So you can either leave an issue there, or if it's something minor, which you're not sure if is a bug or not, then Discord, specifically the Cairo 1 channel.
All right. So Marto Lol is saying, we are finishing our account contract at OZ. There's an open PR you can look into. It's missing tests only. So that was for your question, Sylph. Open Zeppelin is on the case.
Perfect. And I also got a message from Argent saying Argent's also on the case. So it's a race to the finish.
Cool. And then Adekbyte is saying, oh, I have created an account and it generates the account address. It at the point of running the command starknet deploy account that I get the error. So, Byte, do send me a message on Discord. I'll try to answer it. But short answer: did you fund it? And did you specify the name of your account? Okay, following up on questions, Marto is saying there's actually a couple interface details to be agreed on. For example, is valid signature can now return true thanks to Sierra. Interesting. So standardization around wallet is still ongoing thanks to Sierra. All right. So Maciek is saying sometimes should be reflected in the ABI, which sounds like a Starknet upgrade. I'm not entirely sure what this means. So if you can give more details, I'll be happy to answer them. Then Julien, oh my God, we have a lot of people building wallets in the chat. Julien N is saying, is 1 week between the deployment to testnet and the governance vote enough?
Back to the answer about Cairo 1 needing some extra lag to reach mainnet.
Yeah,
TLDR, feature flag, declare V2s will be off on mainnet for a period of testnet experimentation.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I think the point still stands. I mean, there. Okay, so you're saying Cairo 1 won't be available from on mainnet before some time, and we want to push 0.11 to mainnet in the meanwhile because it has nice improvements for Starknet. Fair enough, but still, people are not voting for Cairo 1. They're voting for 0.11, so they're also voting for these improvements to Starknet. Is 1 week enough for them to be comfortable with the vote? I'd say the question is for them, not for us. But I don't know. What did you have thoughts on that?
For if 6 days enough, well, we said it seems reasonable, and we will start with that. And if we will see that after the first vote, we will have comments to make it longer, we'll do it. I mean, this is supposed to be, we're supposed to give enough time for people to check and ask questions and discuss and then get decisions. So if it's not enough time, we'll be happy to hear your feedback.
Where should people give this feedback?
Definitely on the community forum. We have a specific discussion thread regarding this specific vote, and we'll be happy to hear it.
Okay, so sending back the question to you, Julien N. If you think this is too short, make your voice heard. Write it in the community forum, and let's open the discussion around that. And Marto is saying, Julien is saying, given that we're only deploying contracts now, 1 week might not be enough to detect issues. Fair enough. So again, for Cairo 1, you'll get more time. Then Marto is saying, it'd be very valuable to formalize our expectations and scope of the builder's vote. What does approval mean? Yep, that's a good question. It means, does it mean we consider it secure? Does it mean that it has no bugs, that it is feature complete? Does it mean that it doesn't break in a week? I think here, like, yeah, that's a good question. What does the Builders Council's saying, yes, we approve, mean?
The scope of what we're going to approve is obviously we can't have the full-on deluxe verification of like having 2 weeks on testnet. Us saying yes within the allocated time frame means that we are confident enough that it can go there. If we do feel that it is not the case, or it would mandate a bit more time or anything else, this is something that we can voice. And obviously, as Manor has said, if we feel that this is not productive and that we need more time to test or something else, this is what we're going to do. We'll enact this in further in the other roads. As it stands currently, this was already the 6 days period was already what was happening. When StarkWare deploys a new version on testnet, we have to wait 6 days and then it gets ready to mainnet. It's just that we're adding governance on top of it without changing much here. If we do feel that it would be relevant to increase that time or to set expectations for the vote, I think we should do it. Yeah.
No, but I think the question here is like, what is the question being asked? Like, do you approve of Starknet 0.11 going on Starknet? Does it mean, do you think it's safe? Do you think it's useful? Do you think it's a nice trade-off? Do you want to try and see what happens? And I guess it's more of the latter, actually.
I think it is, yes.
Nice.
I think it's kind of all together, right? So if you approve it to go to mainnet, it means you approve that this is going to be the next version of Starknet. It's supposed to for you to make sure that you feel that this is secure, and it's important for the
secure enough.
Secure enough, exactly, but not in a way that you have to specifically do the full audit circle for it with your own, right? It says like, I take a look, it seems reasonable, and it seems like the right people that I know push it forward, etc. And if you want to take it to do the whole thing by yourself, it's great. And if you need more time, just let us know.
I think there's also like a very solid action that is going to happen as a result of this governance vote, which is mainnet will be upgraded to this version that you can go and review and test on testnet. And really about like the criteria for how we decide whether that action should be taken, which is like, do we consider it secure? Do we consider it complete? Do we think this upgrade is good or not? I think really kind of falls on the voters themselves. And I'd almost be afraid for us to define that expectation about what people should consider correct for an upgrade to be upgraded to mainnet.
Makes sense. So Marta is saying, me as a builder, what's my responsibility? Should I code review the upgrade? Should I review the feature list, look for bugs? And he says, right, exactly, which I think is an answer to, we don't expect people to do it because they took too much time. It requires an audit. All right. So in a nutshell, we all agree to hold hands and jump together in the pool, which is cool.
Governance, baby.
I'm sorry?
Governance, baby.
Nice. All right. I don't see more questions. Let me check. Have you received anyone from the chat? From special back channel, Telegram? Well,
All quiet on the Western Front on my end.
Nice. All right. Should we call it a day? Yeah. All right. So thank you for everyone who joined us. You can always ask these questions. We're making these calls because it's funnier when we get online and say stupid stuff, and interesting ones also. It's much more, of course, but it's funnier to get people online. But these questions are really important, and we want people to engage in this process and ask these questions. So do ask them on the community forum. Do ask them on Telegram. There's no dumb question. There's no offensive question. So please voice your voice and make sure that you're comfortable with what's happening. All right.
Agreed.
Gentlemen, I'll see you soon. GM, GN, enjoy your day, enjoy your night, and I'll see you soon.
Cheers, folks.
All right. Have a good day.